I want to tell you something before we get started. There was a time, I was 78 years old, when I could not read my own handwriting, when I walked into rooms and stood there, completely lost. When my children sat me down at my kitchen table and said, "Mama, it is time." And I spent 1 year in a nursing home, convinced my life was over. I got myself out. Not through medication, not through any miracle that a doctor prescribed. I got out because I changed what I put into my body, changed how I treated each morning, and refused, absolutely refused, to accept that what was happening to me was permanent. Within months, my vision sharpened. My memory came back like a light being slowly turned up from dim to bright, and I walked back into my own home, back into my own garden, and I have been here ever since. Last Tuesday, I drove myself to the grocery store, parked, walked in without holding on to anything, picked out my own produce, and drove myself home. I am 103 years old. My neighbor Linda, she is 67, called her daughter to drive her to that same store because her eyes weren't sharp enough and she couldn't trust her memory. What is happening to Linda does not have to be your story. It was almost mine. And I want to spend the next few minutes telling you exactly how I changed it. When I was in my 70s, I started noticing things. Reading the newspaper became harder. I would walk into my pantry and stand there for a full 30 seconds, trying to remember what I came in for. My eyes would blur after an hour of sewing, and I remember thinking, well, this is just what happens. This is getting old. This is the deal. And then my friend Dorothy, she was 81 at the time, Dorothy said something to me that I have never forgotten. She said, "Mabel, your body tells you what it needs. The problem is that most people have stopped listening." And she drank the same 4 juices I am about to tell you about. The first juice, carrot and ginger, for the eyes that want to see again. Every single morning, before I eat a single thing, I drink 1 glass of fresh carrot juice with a small piece of ginger root. Not carrot juice from a bottle, not carrot juice from a can, fresh. I have a juicer that is older than most of my grandchildren, and it still works perfectly, just like me. Now, you have probably heard that carrots are good for your eyes. People have been saying that since before I was born. But most people treat it like an old wives' tale, something sweet and simple that grandmothers say. Let me tell you why it is absolutely true. Carrots are loaded with something called beta-carotene. Your body takes that beta-carotene and converts it into vitamin A. And vitamin A is what your eyes use to produce a substance called rhodopsin. That is the pigment in your eyes that allows you to see in low light, that allows you to adjust when you walk from a bright room into a darker one, that protects the surface of your eye from drying out and becoming damaged. When you are low on vitamin A, your night vision deteriorates first, then your daytime vision starts to blur at the edges, then reading becomes hard. Then faces across the room become soft and unclear. This is not aging. This is a deficiency, and it is reversible. The ginger is in there because ginger is one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory roots that God ever put on this earth. The blood vessels in your eyes are tiny and delicate, and inflammation is what damages them. Ginger keeps the blood flowing clearly and cleanly to those vessels all the way through the night while you sleep. I drink this juice every morning. I've been doing it since I was in my early 70s. I do not wear glasses. I am reading a book right now, not a large print book, a regular book about the history of the Tennessee River at 103 years old. Now, If you want this juice to work as well as it possibly can, you need to drink it with something that contains a little fat, a few walnuts, a small piece of cheese, a soft-boiled egg. Beta-carotene is fat-soluble, which means your body cannot absorb it properly without fat present. This is not complicated. This is just how the body works. Drink it first thing in the morning, every morning. Do not skip days. The second juice, beet and lemon, for the brain that wants to come back to life. Around noon before my lunch, I drink a glass of fresh beet juice with the juice of half a lemon squeezed into it. Now I know what you are thinking. Beet juice looks alarming. It is very red and very earthy, and the first time Dorothy handed me a glass of it, I thought she had completely lost her mind. I drank it anyway because I trusted her, and within 3 weeks, I noticed that my memory was sharper. I was retrieving words faster. I was remembering the names of people I had not thought about in years. Here is what beets do that almost nothing else does quite as powerfully. Beets contain natural compounds called nitrates. When you drink beet juice, your body converts those nitrates into something called nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is like a key that unlocks your blood vessels. It causes them to widen and relax. More blood moves through. More oxygen reaches your brain. Now think about this for a moment. Your brain is only about 2% of your body's weight, but it uses 20% of all the oxygen you breathe. It is the most oxygen-hungry organ in your body. When your circulation is poor, when those blood vessels are stiff and narrow and sluggish, your brain is the first thing that suffers. The memory lapses, the brain fog, the feeling of reaching for a thought and finding nothing there. Beet juice addresses that directly. It opens the roads so that traffic can flow. The lemon does 2 things. First, it makes the beet juice taste significantly more pleasant, which means you will actually drink it. Second, the vitamin C in lemon protects the nitric oxide from being broken down too quickly by your body. It extends the benefit. Those 2 things together, the beet and the lemon, work as a team. I drink this at noon because that is when my body has been working for several hours and needs support. I also believe, and this is from personal experience, not from any medical journal, that drinking beet juice in the afternoon helps me sleep more deeply at night. And deeper sleep means a better brain cleaning. Everything connects. The third juice, blueberry, for the mind that refuses to forget. In the late afternoon, around 4 o'clock, I eat a small handful of fresh blueberries, or I drink a glass of fresh blueberry juice, depending on what I have available. Blueberries are the humblest looking fruit. Small, a little dusty looking, nothing flashy about them. But inside that small dark berry is one of the most powerful collections of antioxidants that exists in any food on this planet. The particular antioxidants in blueberries are called anthocyanins. That is the pigment that makes them blue. And what anthocyanins do specifically is cross something called the blood-brain barrier, a very selective protective membrane that surrounds your brain and only lets certain things through. Most antioxidants cannot do this. Anthocyanins can. Once they are inside the brain, they go to work protecting neurons, the individual brain cells responsible for storing and retrieving your memories from oxidative damage. Every day, your brain cells are under attack from molecules called free radicals. Free radicals are normal. They are produced by your own metabolism. But when there are too many of them and not enough antioxidants to neutralize them, your brain cells begin to deteriorate. This is not a mystery. This is chemistry. I have watched people I love lose their memories. I watched my husband Raymond's mind begin to fade in his late 80s, and that was the hardest thing I have ever witnessed in 103 years of life. I do not know if blueberries would have changed that for him. I do not say that to sell you something. I say it because that loss is what made me study. That grief is what made me pay attention. I do not want that for you. I do not want you to lose yourself. And I do not want the people who love you to watch you disappear while you are still standing right in front of them. Drink your blueberry juice. Eat your blueberries. Do it every day. It is the simplest act of love you can perform for your own mind. The fourth juice, spinach and apple, for deep sleep and overnight repair. The final juice is the one I am most particular about because the timing matters. I drink spinach and apple juice approximately 1 hour before I go to bed. I juice 3 large handfuls of fresh spinach with 2 sweet apples, and sometimes a small sprig of fresh mint if I have it growing in my garden, which I usually do. Now, spinach before bed might sound like a strange idea, but let me tell you what spinach contains that makes it specifically useful at night. Spinach is one of the richest food sources of magnesium on Earth, and magnesium, I cannot overstate how important magnesium is to everything we are talking about. Most people over the age of 60 are chronically deficient in magnesium, and they have no idea. They take medications for the symptoms, blood pressure medications, sleep aids, anxiety prescriptions, but nobody tells them that a significant portion of what they are suffering from is simply a magnesium deficiency. Here is what magnesium does while you sleep. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and repair system. It lowers cortisol levels. It regulates the neurotransmitters that your brain needs to enter deep restorative sleep. It also directly supports the glymphatic system, that brain cleaning process I told you about at the beginning. Magnesium essentially tells your brain it is safe now, go to work, clean house. And the apple in this juice is not just there for sweetness, though it helps with that. Apples contain something called quercetin, which has been shown to protect brain cells from a specific type of damage and reduce neuroinflammation, swelling in the brain that interferes with memory consolidation during sleep. When you drink this juice 1 hour before bed, you are essentially giving your brain and your eyes a full repair kit and saying, use all of this while I am sleeping. Do your best work tonight. I have slept deeply for decades. I wake up in the morning alert and clear. I have not taken a sleeping pill in my life. I have not taken a prescription for memory. I drink my juice, I say my prayers, and I let my body do what God designed it to do. Let me tell you my schedule, because simple is what works morning. Carrot and ginger juice with a little fat on the side. Noon, beet and lemon juice before lunch. 4 o'clock, fresh blueberries or blueberry juice. 1 hour before bed, spinach and apple juice. That is it. That is the whole system. 4 juices 4 times a day, built into a rhythm. Consistency is everything. Perfect is the enemy of good. If you miss a day, you pick it back up the next day. You do not give up on yourself because of one missed day. I have been drinking these juices for over 30 years. I did not see dramatic results in 1 week. I saw gradual, steady improvement over months. My vision stabilized and then sharpened. My memory became more reliable. My sleep deepened. My energy at 103 is something that bewilders the young doctors who examine me. One of them last year told me with complete seriousness, that my blood work looked like a healthy woman in her 60s. I told him I would take that as a compliment and that he should try the beet juice. The secret gift, the one that changes everything. Now, I promised you a secret gift at the end of this video, and this is the part I want you to stay for, because this is the part that ties everything together. This is the part that, in my honest opinion, matters more than the carrot juice and the beet juice and all the rest of it combined. I have thought about why I am still here at 103 with my mind intact and my eyes clear and my body moving through the world without assistance. I have thought about it a great deal, and the juice is a part of it. The simple food is part of it. The walking every day is part of it. But there is something else, something I have never seen in any health magazine or any doctor's pamphlet, and yet I am more convinced of it than almost anything else I know. The secret is this: I have spent my entire life looking for ways to help other people, not in grand ways, not in ways that made the newspapers. I am not a wealthy woman. I was not a famous woman. But for as long as I can remember, I have woken up every morning and asked myself one simple question: who needs something today, and what is the smallest thing I can do about it? I bring soup to Linda on Thursdays. I write letters, actual handwritten letters, to my great-grandchildren, even the ones who I know probably do not write back. When the young man at the grocery store looks tired and defeated, I look him in the eyes and I tell him he is doing a good job, and I mean it. When my neighbor's dog escaped through the fence last spring, I was the one who walked up and down the street for 40 minutes until we found him hiding under a rose bush 3 houses down. Small things, unremarkable things, things that most people do not even count. But here is what I have learned after 103 years of living. Compassion is not just a moral virtue, it is a biological necessity. When you genuinely focus on the needs of another person, your brain releases oxytocin, it releases serotonin, it suppresses the cortisol that inflames your blood vessels and degrades your memory and disrupts your sleep. Acts of kindness, real ones, not performed for an audience, actually, physically repair your nervous system. I have watched people deteriorate rapidly after retirement, not because of illness, but because they stopped being needed. They stopped looking outward. They turned inward into their own aches and their own worries, and without anything pulling them forward each morning, they quietly faded. I have watched other people with real physical illness, real hardship, real grief, sustain themselves for years longer than any doctor predicted, simply because they had someone to cook for, someone to call, some small corner of the world that needed their particular presence. My sister Margaret, I have told the story of our reconciliation before, and I will tell it again as many times as I need to, because it saved my life. Margaret and I did not speak for 11 years because of a disagreement so foolish I am almost embarrassed to say what it was about. And during those 11 years, something in me was dimmer, something essential was turned down low. When we finally sat across from each other and cried and asked each other's forgiveness, I felt something physically lift from my chest. I felt younger than I had in a decade. Love, the active kind, the reaching out kind, the inconvenient kind, is medicine, the most underrated medicine that exists. So here is what I want to ask you before you close this video and go on with your day. Think of one person in your life who needs something small, not something expensive, not something that requires you to rearrange your entire week, just something small, a phone call, a note, a plate of food left on a doorstep, a few minutes of genuine, undistracted attention. Do that thing today, not tomorrow, today, and then do it again tomorrow and the day after that. Let it become as habitual as brushing your teeth. Let it become the first question you ask yourself every morning. Because here is what I know. After 103 years of evidence, the people who live long and live well are not the people who took the best supplements. They are not the people with the most money or the least stress or the most favorable genetics. They are the people who stayed connected, who stayed useful, who found every single day some small reason to turn their attention away from themselves and towards someone else. That is the juice that no one puts in a bottle. That is the nutrient that no laboratory has synthesized. That is the thing, the real thing, that keeps the light on behind your eyes and the spark alive in your mind and the will to get up each morning and drive yourself to the grocery store at 103 years old. So, here is your assignment. Drink your carrot juice in the morning. Drink your beet juice at noon. Have your blueberries in the afternoon. Drink your spinach and apple juice before bed. And then call somebody who needs to hear your voice. Write a letter to someone who might be feeling forgotten. Bring soup to your neighbor. Find the young man at the checkout counter who looks like the world has been sitting on him all day, and tell him sincerely that he is doing a good job. Do those things every day, not because you will be rewarded, not because anyone is keeping score, but because that is what it means to be alive, and because after 103 years, I can promise you, with every ounce of certainty I possess, that it is the truest path to a life that remains worth living. Now go drink your juice and call somebody who loves you. I will see you next week.